I have some bad news for you. There isn't anywhere to get really meaningful and context-specific benchmarks on the grants you need to give staff, let alone at each stage in the country you're based in. Wealthfront used to have a nifty equity calculator orientated towards engineers in the Valley, but they discontinued it in 2015 when they found it too hard to maintain. What I can do for you is give you all the heuristics and references I've been able to accumulate over the years to help you figure out what makes sense beyond the calculations of what you can also afford. So, to kick things off, CapShares did a study and found it's common to have around 15% of a VC's backed startup's equity set aside for the ESOP. Your ESOP generally ranges from 10 to 20% depending on the company and stage. The min you will really be able to get away with is 10%, 5% at 3 standard deviations. The worst you should expect is 25%. Anything more than this, and something's rotten in the state of Denmark. Leo Polivet at SUSE Ventures did a great analysis of AngelList data. The data is very orientated towards technical hires in Silicon Valley, as usual, and not other staff. The data finds grants vary from 0.25 to 3% for the first 34 or so employees. Using math, we can estimate the equity requirement to hire those first 34 people totals to 22.8%. Hence, we can come to a rule of thumb of 15 to 25% for the ESOP pool, which supports the data on the pool we just discussed. So looking through this data, we can see equity grants for the first 34 engineers. The first hire gets 2 to 3% of equity. The next through to 5 gets 1 to 2. Hires 6 and 7, 0.5 to 1%. Hires 8 to 14 get between 0.4 and 0.8%. Hires 15 to 19 get 0.3 to 0.7. Hires 21 through 27, 0.25 to 0.6. Hires 28 through 34, 0.25 to 0.5. Now, what about later stage? A Series A company would likely expand its ESOP as part of a Series B financing, adding perhaps another 5 to 10% depending on the hiring plan of the company. Series C and later companies tend to add about 1 to 2% each year to the pool, or more if they plan to hire executives who can command about 1% or more of outstanding shares. But what about non-engineers? The sample size of non-engineering jobs at early stage companies is too small to analyze vigorously from Polivet's data. That said, there are some high-level observations. Sales jobs. VPs tend to get 1 to 2%. Directors tend to get 0.5 to 1%. Equity stakes for non-director roles were generally 1% or less. For the first 10 hires, equity was typically 0.3 to 0.5%, then dropped off to 0.1 to 0.2% for subsequent hires. UI, UX, designer jobs. Designers among the first 4 hires get up to 1 to 2% equity, occasionally only 0.5%. Designers among the next 5 hires get up to 0.5% to 1%, 0.2 to 0.5 for employees 10 to 30. There are no hard and fast rules, but for post-Series A startups in Silicon Valley, there's a table that was based by the one from Babak Nivi from Venture Hacks, which gives rough ballpark equity levels that many think are reasonable. These would usually be stock options with standard 4-year vesting schedule. These apply if each of the roles were hired for just after Series A and are also being paid a salary, i.e. not already founders or hired before the A round. The upper ranges would be for the highly desired candidates with strong track records. So, for a CEO coming in, you'd expect 5 to 10%. A COO, that's between 2 and 5. A VP level person is going to command about 1 to 2%. An independent board member around 1. Director level people will get 0.4 to 1.25%. A lead engineer, 0.5 to 1. An engineer with about 5 years experience is going for about 0.33 to 0.66. A manager or a junior engineer will be 0.2 to 0.33. Now, these numbers are generalistic, so what you're able to get with your staff will really depend on your negotiation, the stage you're at, and lots of other variables. But hopefully it enables you to think about what's been done in the past and what's sort of reasonable.